How to create the experience of a lifetime. Sponsors of major sports events enter partnerships to increase visibility and brand awareness. They organize hospitality programs around major sports events for their senior management and other stakeholders, to give them the experience of a lifetime. How do you surprise a sponsor guest? And how can you still book rooms in hotels when a city is fully booked during sports events? How can you embed sustainability in your event program? And how do you deal with unforeseen circumstances? ATPI's sports event specialists are here today, and they will answer those questions. We are on air. Welcome, Kevin. Welcome, John. Great to have you at the table again.
Great to be here.
Can you give us a brief introduction, Kevin? I understand you came all the way from Montreal, Canada.
I did. With your introduction, I'm already winded. It seems complicated what you just said. But anyways, we'll get into that in a couple of minutes to get all over the details, to let our listeners know how we take guest experiences to the next level. I had the commercial efforts for Canada and as well on a global front for all sports business. And obviously, I'm in contact with John almost every week to get his feedback on how they're doing their events, to help us sometimes with issues and things we need to sort out on our end, and likewise for them. And then we bring all of that knowledge on a global front to all of the other offices around the world in our calls and in our best practices as well. So
excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Yeah. John, your relation to sports events?
Goes back a long way, to be honest. 17 years now with ATPI, and serving a lot of different clients, going to sports events. Well, to be honest, we're very excited. In a couple of weeks, the Champions League final takes place in Istanbul, but also Europa League, Conference League, and Women's final. We're serving corporate clients who are in the sports sponsoring of UEFA. So special dynamics happening. But we can make a difference there, we believe. So I'm looking forward to the next couple of weeks.
Nice. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, you mentioned UEFA Champions League finals. I understand the semifinals are happening this week as we record this podcast. Is that an exciting time for you?
Definitely. It depends which teams will be in the final, what kind of guests are coming from which different countries. This is the 16th time I'm involved in the Champions League final, and in Istanbul is a bit different than certain European cities.
Okay.
An earthquake hit the country some time ago. Elections are going on as we record this podcast. The runoff will be on the 28th of May, which is quite close to the 10th of June when the final takes place.
Exactly.
So a lot of things are going on, and for us it's the time to connect all those little dots, because we did already book the hotel rooms. We do already have a contract with a logistical supplier, things like this, local stuff. But it's still exciting.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, of course. Yeah, as you say, those hotel accommodations and transfers, that's all been arranged by now. Can you take us along the route that it takes to do that? When do you start preparing for this?
Yeah, to be honest, we have already secured the accommodation for Munich in 2.5 years.
Wow.
So what we do is usually 3 to 4 years before the final takes place, it's announced which city will host the final.
Yeah.
And we know on that day, or maybe a couple of hours before the press release goes out, what will be the city, as our partners are sponsors of UEFA.
Sure.
So they're a little bit ahead of things sometimes. So what we do is we secure the rooms, usually via the chains. So we talk to Hilton, to Marriott. And as we book in volume as a company, ATPI, but also for 17 years on Champions League finals, they know what we want. And maybe well, not a funny example, but a strange example is that last year the Champions League final was supposed to take place in St. Petersburg, and was moved about 3 months before it's supposed to happen to Paris.
Right.
But we, as partners of UEFA and agencies working for partners, were thinking, where does this Champions League final go? And it's a crucial moment. So we already secured 800 rooms in Madrid, 700 rooms in London, just to be on top of it for our for our clients.
Yeah.
And in the end, it went to Paris. We did it, and we all have to do it for those different partners. But it's a particular ball game.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. And so that's a preparation of more than 2 years.
Yes.
Impressive. Yeah. And now running up to the event, the location provides with its own specific delicacies, maybe.
Yep.
Okay, so that's what the team is all over at the moment.
Yeah, correct. Logistics is a big thing in Istanbul, where you're situated with your hotels. Where's the airport? Where's the stadium? How are you going to manage this?
Yeah.
So yes, and to be honest, those last 2 weeks you just want to be there because that's where it happens. You need to be there anyway. The team will go there about 10 days before the final takes place. So you have your office there, and you get settled, and you get to know a little bit of the city, and it's
Pulse.
Yeah, exactly. So you're always looking forward to it. The adrenaline level rises a little bit, and that also helps.
Sure. I can imagine. And Kevin, turning to you, because this was a lot about Champions League. Obviously, it's really close, so very hot topic for John.
Definitely.
But maybe to take this on a bit wider scope. So having that local knowledge and that, as you say, that pulse of what goes on in that city, how does ATPI manage that? Because these events, they take place in different cities every time.
Yeah.
You don't have boots on the ground in every city, so how do you do that?
Almost. Being present in what we have 136 offices now around the world and counting.
Okay.
Because we're always in acquisition mode in many countries.
Mm-hmm.
So we're present in more than 76 countries around the world. It doesn't mean that we have a sports entity or a sports office in that particular country or city, but we do have colleagues who do travel. So they can obviously tell us more about, what the pulse is in that city.
Yeah.
They obviously have local agreements with local suppliers, whether it be transportation, whether it be hotels, etc., restaurants, guides, DMCs. So they can refer us to the best in their cities and, make that work relationship even better and faster. More efficient in that manner. So that's how we're able to come to that city already with an advantage.
Yeah.
If I may add something to this, because it's not only the local partners and our own colleagues, but also global partners.
Okay.
We work, for instance, with a logistical company on Formula One. And those partners travel with the Formula One circus around the world. And they know exactly, it's really fascinating. I think it's quite fascinating. I don't know if the listeners agree, but I don't know. Well, anyway, they know exactly the height of the viaducts, which bus can go via this route or via that route. And if you explain that to a client, that we won't take 50-seater coaches, but we will go with 36-seater coaches, and this is the reason, because we can drop you off even closer to your stand, or we can be faster, or we can avoid traffic. That's what a client expects from us, and I think
it's
they
value.
may expect
it's
from
value,
us.
right? It's
Exactly.
expertise.
Yeah. That's a level of detail that within ATPI you would go into.
It's expected for sure.
Yeah, and you can make the difference.
Yeah. And does that help in making that difference to really surprise those guests that are then taken to this event that are there to have a lifetime experience? Is it those details that make all the difference?
Yeah, definitely, and I'm sure John is going to add to this with the types of programs they're planning right now. But if you take ATPI has been working closely around Olympics for the last 30 years now, and I would say delivering a hospitality program for the Olympics is probably within the most complex programs you can work on, plan, and deliver. Again, it's 4 years down the road, you start planning. But, there are so many people at the same time for the Olympics and so many countries. You think about Summer Olympics, there's at least 206 countries present there with everything that entails. So there has to be controls by the organizing committee, obviously. And so you need to be aware of every little detail from the organizing committee, from the IOC, from your local Olympic committee as well, and so on so forth. So it's just getting the information to you and getting your network around the world so that you can have access to that information. I think that's what ATPI does very well. We're in tune and we have that information to be able to plan for the client. So how clients sometimes, the satisfied clients, you don't necessarily hear much about, but you hear the disgruntled clients like loud and clear. It's the same thing in a program or in that type of situation for events is, the surprises that you do for the clients, you'll hear about it. Yeah. But if you don't hear anything about the program, I think you need to shake on it and just say that the program was a huge success. Because if there is something that went wrong, but you were able to pick up the ball, after the first bounce and recuperate from that, and the clients didn't notice anything, then I think that's a success for sure.
So you were talking about the Olympics, Kevin. Can you real briefly sketch what a guest program or a guest experience could look like?
Door to door.
Yeah.
Door to door is actually what we do. It starts with personalized invitations to the stakeholders or to the clients, to the sponsors. Then obviously it's if they want transportation from their house to the airport, at the airport, welcoming them at the airport, then getting them on a flight at the destination airport, same thing, welcome, and then transfers from the airport to their hotel, people in the hotel to welcome them, special packages in the rooms when they come in with a welcome letter. I won't steal John's punch because I think he has something maybe that we'll talk about later on for specificities of programs, but it's all about customization for that client. Yeah. But like I said, or even John touched a bit on it earlier on, it's getting the right vehicle sometimes to get to closest to the stadium or the sports venue so that their clients don't have to walk half an hour to get there. Yeah. And then get at the stadium maybe 15 minutes later than they should have, meaning one glass of champagne less than maybe they would have liked, and so on and so forth, right? Yeah. So this gets compounded, or, your guide on the bus that you hired, not knowing which path exactly to lead the group of 30 to get to the stadium from the bus to the stadium. Right. No, we should have gone that way. So you go back 5 minutes, hang a left, and, so all of these little details will weigh heavier as the program gets along if it keeps happening, right? Yeah. Yeah. So that's why it's so important to get there 10, 5, how many days earlier so that you can work out these little things on your own before the guests get there. Yeah.
John, it's a lot of touch points in that guest journey. Is that a methodology that you use to design these type of these programs?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you expand a little on that?
Yes, I can. Maybe with another example on the base of this answer is that we've been organizing guest experiences for many different corporate clients for many different sporting events, and again taking the Champions League final. as it's the pinnacle of the football season.
Yeah.
And it's so close to this recording. We've been doing this for a major sponsor, a Dutch beer company, for 1,100 guests for 16 years. So you always try to surprise.
Yeah.
Which is difficult because many of these guests have seen the final many times, experienced the program a couple of times.
Right.
So what we did last time is we mapped where are those guests from and what works with us in a certain culture.
Mm-hmm.
Japanese guests are much different than American guests. Dutch
Right.
guests are much different than Italian guests. So we analyzed the programs, what they chose on options. They could go play golf outside the city, or they could be taken by a guide on a city tour. And then we mapped all those different nationalities. And then we offered, it wasn't an optional program, we offered programs tailor-made to their specific needs, we thought. And that worked so well because they were so, excited that we chose their program which fitted their needs based on the history we have with them.
Okay.
With that kind of things. Another example is digitalization.
Yeah.
We've created an app in-house, an event app, with the help of partners, to be honest. And we fill the app with practical information, which everybody wants to know. What was my address of the hotel, or what time are we leaving, or what's the dress code for tonight? But we also filled it with humor.
Always works.
Always works. And we are lucky that our partners and our clients have the access to certain ambassadors, sports ambassadors. So we recorded the voice of one of those ambassadors.
Oh.
And with that recording, we could make a personal note or a personal message to the guest. So using his voice, you could work with that he would say, "Dear Jochem, it's match day today. Great that you're joining our program. Enjoy the match." Said by a famous football player.
Right.
In your phone. Or, pushed to your app.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just amazing.
It's great.
Yeah,
Doesn't get better.
No.
Right?
Yeah. So and then I can imagine that if you do this for one client, that's a learning that you can then, replicate for others. And by doing this many times, and for a longer period of time, for many years, you gain a lot of experience. On this, and also the development of these. These touch points and these surprises, that's part of the services that clients will get from ATPI.
Yeah, I think as a company, you have to be mature enough to check your ego at the door and ask for the feedback, ask for improvement points from your clients. So we will always schedule a debrief session after each event. Just to ask, how can we improve? Let's be real, share all the information that you have. And then we strive, obviously, to make the necessary changes to implement what we can, provided that we have time to do so and resources, obviously,
Sure.
To be able to correct or to improve the small portions that may not have gone as smoothly. And case in point, when we started off with the Canadian Olympic Committee in Canada, although we had years and years of perfection in the Netherlands with the NOC-NSF and all of their knowledge transfer made to our team, we still didn't really get it right because of the culture, the differences in the culture from the Dutch to the Canadians, their expectations, what they had dealt with the previous supplier, et cetera, right? So we got through the project in Pyeongchang, and then we sat down, formed specific task forces to get these issues out of the way, and since then, every time we improve and we change things after each Olympics. And we're in a good place now, I feel, to be able to deliver Paris in 2024.
Yeah. So what I understand you're saying is, okay, what works in one location or with one client or with one nationality, you can use it for another client or another location, but it doesn't mean that copy paste just works. It also takes tailoring
Definitely.
to local specifics, preferences, needs, and expectations. Yeah.
Definitely.
Interesting.
I think you can be more efficient in taking your best practices that you've gone to a certain level, in reaching a certain level. Case in point, if I take example, our team working on the Paris Olympics also works for CONCACAF to deliver their events. And so we're able to take away tools and methodologies, etc., to be able to make it easier. But CONCACAF also has their tools and their ways of working. So we're able to combine both to be in a respectable area where both parties are good and with each other's tools and methodologies so that we can deliver successful and efficient programs.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, great. John?
Yeah, and sorry to add again. You have to.
You have one more comment.
I'm sorry. We also shouldn't forget that the basics need to be in place. We can be as creative as we want, and we want to challenge our clients, and they want to be challenged. And a lot of our ideas are not adopted, but still we're challenging them. They're challenging us. But your basics need to be in place. And what Kevin is hosting a global call every month where we have our colleagues from Africa, our colleagues from Dubai, our colleagues from the UK in the call, and we listen to them. Like you said, different cultures need maybe a different approach, or humor doesn't work in this certain specific field, so you have to also be careful. And if the bus is late and the room key doesn't work, and then you also need to change that. So you always have to find the right balance, I think.
Yeah. And in terms of any trends that you see, for example, sustainability is a big topic in the corporate world.
Yeah.
Do you see this replicating in the events industry, and particularly in this field of sports events?
Yes, definitely. We're very lucky and fortunate to be the global hospitality partner of the Ocean Race, which is taking place at the moment.
Yeah.
Boats are coming back to Europe in a couple of weeks, and then from Denmark go to The Hague, and then finish up in Genoa in Italy.
Yeah.
We learn a lot from them because sustainability is at the core of everything which is going on in the race. We've got our own program, ATPI Halo. And if you look at that race, all greenhouse emissions will be compensated, plus all the guests contribute to the Race to Zero program.
Okay.
So it's both. It works both ways.
Yeah.
So again, taking those learnings to other clients, together with our own tooling, it becomes, well, to be honest, more important day by day.
Yeah. And when you say they help you, they challenge you as a supplier.
Yes, as a partner, to be honest. It's a partnership between the Ocean Race and ATPI.
Yeah.
But they challenge us. We take our learnings from, Champions League or whatever sporting event we work on. And we pitch those ideas. Would this work in the Ocean Race? Would this work at a certain stopover in the Netherlands or Denmark? And we adopt some of those ideas. We tailor-made them to the race or to the boats or to the sport.
Yeah.
But yes, sustainability is really
interesting,
a hot topic.
Yeah.
And I think maybe to add to this, like you said, John, is you see every week there's 2-3 posts from the Ocean Race. There's a lot of content being shared by them. I think it's their priority, right? It's their raison d'être, it's their reason to be. So, that's how we're able to learn from them, because every little thing they do is first thing at the top of their list is, is it sustainable? How about this? And how can we switch it over so that it is sustainable? In which way? And so that's how we're able to learn from them. And, in our events now as well is, it's easy for us anyways, as a travel management company, to measure, your miles and your carbon footprint and so on and so forth, ground transportation. But we're actually now working with a company to be able to involve the hotel side
Sure.
of an event so that it becomes a little bit more complete, not yet, 100% complete, because there's a whole bunch of things that, are they printing, guides to give out to each attendee? Are they printing badges? Are
Sure.
they, so, some companies or events are not there yet.
Yeah.
We can obviously bring it up for them to think about it, but they're not yet ready to give bracelets out. And even if you do give bracelet out, it's a bracelet, right? It's plastic or whatever the case is, or rubber. Or, so in that sense, and it can always be recycled. So there's no end to it. I mean, you always have something to recuperate from, but at least it's thinking about it, making the client aware that there is a possibility, there is a plan for it, and that's how we're trying to incorporate as much as we can in all of our events as well.
Yeah. And then, again, learning from previous experiences and, using that knowledge and experience into the future. At the start of this conversation, John mentioned something around Champions League finals in Istanbul and the local situations there with elections and the earthquakes you mentioned that have obviously happened there, and so that poses additional care. I understand. So unforeseen circumstances like that. Do you have any previous experiences from any of the events that you've been involved with, Kevin? I understood you've been heavily involved in the Tokyo Olympics, which obviously had were affected by COVID. So you must have quite a story around that.
Definitely. I was going to say COVID. That's all I have to say about Tokyo. But so I think the magnitude of the project was multiplied by 5.
Right.
So it started off as a beautiful project. Everyone wanted to go to Japan for the Olympics. Record engagement from the market, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously, we all know what happened. So at that point, we had to postpone. So It's reaching out to all the suppliers that you have agreements with to let them know that, hey, you know what, it's going to be postponed. What do we do? Renegotiate contracts. New date is set after a while. Then it's renegotiating to the next date, calling back all of your clients to say that you've renegotiated for them on their behalf, including more clauses at that time now with cancellation clauses, new clauses.
Yeah.
And then just sitting back, waiting for a while, still selling out there, being able to accommodate clients who now want to join the party. And then, the fifth thing came along where they canceled all foreign participation in the Olympics. So now at that point, it's again reaching out to all suppliers to get your cancellation in process, being refunded, and then going back and refund all clients, whether they are corporate clients with programs or individuals who had purchased packages from our company.
Right.
So that was five different projects in one over 2.5-3 year period.
Amazing.
You have to roll with it. At the time, you do what's best for the client always, but also we're in business, right? You do good for your company. And then Beijing came along, so we thought, this is going to be an easy one. Beijing, after what we went through with Tokyo, it's going to be an easy one, but it was even more complicated. Obviously, the Chinese closed their borders. They closed all flights coming in to Beijing. We had to think of other ways to be able to get the athletes into Beijing and out after.
Amazing. Yeah, amazing.
Maybe I can add something to this.
I was going to turn to you, John.
No, but our industry, if it's an ash cloud or a strike or a war going on on the continent at the moment. The Champions League final has been reallocated from St. Petersburg to Paris last year. Imagine the impact. While the Champions League, maybe half an hour before kickoff, certain things happened at the final in Paris where people got scared. Communicating with your client, I think sometimes we're at our best if things like this happen. Nobody wants these things to happen. But if things like this happen, you can make a difference. And you can make a difference towards your client, towards your own staff, because safety and security is maybe one of the most important things in our business. And that's where we accelerate also.
Yeah, to your example, John, for Tokyo, we had 6 different scenarios. So 6 different calamities, security, preparedness, 6 scenarios for all of the stakeholders. So we might have had 10 different stakeholder groups. So you can imagine filling in all those boxes. Okay, what happens if this scenario happens? Then we had a solution for each. So, it's just being prepared. And at the end, did we use one of those scenarios in the boxes? For sure we did.
Yeah.
But was it box 1? I don't think so.
No.
It was way down the line.
Yeah.
But at least it showed that we were prepared and that we do think of the eventual cases.
Yeah. So, John, maybe as a last question to you, what advice would you then give to sponsor managers and event managers to planning their events for the future years?
Yeah, make sure you collaborate from a safety and security point of view with specialists. Some of our clients hire an external security, safety, ISOS type of company. Some of our clients have their own. But acting as a team from a organizing agency together with the safety and security guys or women who know what they're talking about. So again, maybe I'm focusing too much on the safety thing because I'm with my head already in Istanbul. But still, I think it's a very important part, duty of care on all things what we do. Other thing is digital. We all know, but digital works better. You can inform guests quicker. It's fun to play around with. And my third part would be make sure your guests do have fun. It is important that we service them well, on the right level, on brand. Yes, that's true, but also have a bit of fun because what we do is a great thing.
Yeah.
And there's no small program, so make sure to reach out to us. We talked about large programs, marquee events like the Olympics and the Champions League, but anything can become a nice event for us. John was nice enough to refer to me last year, one of his good friends and clients at Volvo. They were coming to see the Canadian Grand Prix. And so he asked us if we could take care of the planning after they went to the race. And we put a little program up for them, and they were very satisfied, left Canada, feeling good about seeing part of the country. And, it wasn't a whole lot of people. Yeah. And it wasn't, a huge program with complex itineraries. But we made it happen, and any program for us is worth our time.
Excellent. All right. Thank you very much, Kevin. John, thank you very much for your time. Yeah, good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Global Events Podcast, How to Create the Experience of a Lifetime. My name is Jochem Hemink, and the production was in the hands of the Motion Content Company.